today's topic is the Bhagavad Gita, which is highly relevant to a sort of bizarro situation out in the world. We're in kind of a battlefield with life at the moment. And this ancient tale tells us about the inner conflict, tells us about what Krishna and Arjuna are trying to understand about the world, or at least what Arjuna is trying to understand. And Krishna is this incredible intervention strategy of the universe. And so the Bhagavad Gita is very relevant to how we meditate, actually. And what I did was, the reason I'm inspired by this topic today is I came across a collection of summaries of each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And then in my sort of mythologian mind, I condensed them down to phrases, or actually down to a quality. So each chapter has a quality. And what I noticed was that the first two chapters of the Bhagavad Gita present the situation, basically saying there's a problem, and the problem is your mind. And then the next chapter says there is a solution to your problem, and that solution is right understanding. So right off the bat, the Bhagavad Gita is doing what good German philosophers do, right? Which is to present the situation, and then they're looking for the synthesis, right? Looking for the thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So basically, what I noticed is the last 16 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are divided into groups of 8, at least if you boil them down to this mythologian level. And the first batch is really about being, about what we are, what's the situation, how do we proceed, what are these qualities we need for enlightenment, for liberation. And then the next 8 qualities are essentially the action that you have to take to attain liberation. So I thought tomorrow we'd focus on the second batch of 8, and today focus on the first batch, which is extremely Buddhist. Actually, when we think about, Buddha talks about the Eightfold Path and presents very similar teachings. And it is true that the Bhagavad Gita is contained, Buddhism is contained in the Bhagavad Gita to a great degree, based on the redactions over time, and that Buddhism precedes this scripture by almost 700 years. So we can find Buddhism in the Bhagavad Gita. Basically, I like to suggest we're finding wisdom. And what I noticed about today, or for today, is that this wisdom is actually a document of meditation. It tells you how to proceed, ultimately. So I thought we'd go over that, make use of this ancient wisdom, and see what it holds for us, because otherwise it's just a book on a shelf if it's not relevant. So, first things first, it suggests selflessness is chapter 3. So let's do that. We breathe, we relax brain, we go to 0 point, we become nobody, doing nothing, being nowhere. Whoa. Just allow that to occur. It's like getting out of our own way, clearing the content of the mind, so that your mind can be this radiant, full, fabulously feeling light-filled explosion. And then what happens is the light implodes and recurses like gravity, and you get the Kundalini. And believe it or not, the Kundalini, well, is not really in the Bhagavad Gita, but if you look at the chapter that condenses down to resonance, now we're talking the body, the activation of spirit power. Essentially, the Bhagavad Gita is a Brahmanical document. It's dominated by male energy. So most of it is highly philosophical. You could say it's so the idea of these things, which is very male. But then the real power is the feminine principle in India, right? This tantric expression of the goddess, right? That is the real power, the real fire in the flames. And so, is the Kundalini in the Bhagavad Gita? Not exactly, but in its sort of Brahmanical way, it sort of infers that when Krishna becomes a blazing sun of a billion suns, that on some level this light is exploding in our body. Okay, so we're going to breathe. The fourth chapter is mindfulness. So we're going to drop in and notice what's going on with the mind. Because as the Bhagavad Gita suggests, the mind is the problem. It also allows us the solution with right understanding. So mindfulness, we drop a little deeper to noticing the activity of the mind in the body. Let's just take the next minute and notice what's happening to your mind right now in your body. Okay, what did you notice? Doesn't the mind do a lot of talking? Right, so we have this throat chakra, this narrative center. It's also understood, it's a blue vibration, which means it's a blueprint. It's a blue etheric template. This then essentially is the barrier between the heart's advance up to the third eye. So let's say our goal today isn't just to understand the Bhagavad Gita. We want to use that to accomplish something more profound, perhaps, which is to expand from your beautiful heart up through this resistant barrier of the throat. Right? Why is it such a barrier? Well, let's just contemplate that. What is the throat chakra? A 16-petaled, 16 vortex center. Right? All the syllables, vowels, language as creation is the creation center. And because the mind is a polarity instrument, it's going to go to yes and no. And because it goes to yes and no, you're going to get Congress. You're going to get an impasse, right? Nobody can figure out what to do. It's just like the mind is in the way of the heart going to the third eye, to the vision, right? Here we have it. So let's use this meditation. We can maybe send a little blessings to Congress so that the people get their money, people get the blessings and what they need. And so we're doing a little micro meditation on this as Krishna advises Arjuna how to become self-realized, essentially. Okay? So we breathe, we keep noticing whether you have an impasse. If you have an impasse in your mind, let's think about Krishna for a minute. What is this Krishna principle? This translates to the color black in Sanskrit. But Krishna is depicted as blue, right? Consciousness is blue. The blueprint template is blue. So you could say Krishna lives in our throat, in the sense of the supreme I am expressor. It's right here in the throat. So giving you permission to go past there or not. Right? Krishna is the gatekeeper. Right? He's the driver of the chariot. The chariot essentially, by many understandings, is the vehicle of liberation. There's the body, and the horses are the senses, and Arjuna is the ego, and Krishna is his supreme consciousness advisor, the supreme self himself. So here we have it. The Bhagavad Gita is you. So let's just notice this. You're this incredible sacred geometry of the heart. And you want to move up into the vision, past the limitations of language, past the limitations of cultural narrative, people telling you what you can and can't do. It's sort of the product of the mind here. So we relax the mind, relax the narrative. It sort of opens up the corridor where we've hourglassed ourselves, right? We want to move up through this narrow passageway, through the Sushumna channel, up into the pineal gland. But just image that, imagine that, feel that. What does that feel like for you? This is our healing intention today, aside from our philosophical adventure. We want to rise up into this higher chakra. In a sense, they say in India that the guru is up in this chakra, right? This knowing, the supreme vision, clairvoyancy. And so what is the situation for Arjuna? He's being told by Krishna he has to kill his relatives. This is not, we don't have that situation quite like that, but there's a kind of civil war going on. And this document has been understood in various ways and misunderstood in various ways when it comes to killing. Krishna understands death as non-existent. We are deathless, so killing relatives isn't such a big deal in this situation on the plains of Kurukshetra, whatever it is, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, probably based on some kind of battle. But then really this is a metaphor for our battle, right? This impasse where we have to slay the demons, we have to slay those familiar thought forms that are actually binding us and causing us stress. So we breathe. We want to allow, right? We don't want to use force. Krishna is advising on one level to use force, right? There's a warfaring thing happening. But on the other hand, Krishna is an embodiment of love, right? So there's a feminine principle going on with Krishna. Even though the Brahmins are very male and, you know, they have their ritual and they're at the top of the pyramid in Indian culture, and it's beautiful what they do. There's this goddess principle lurks in the shadow, right? This primordial power of the body that the linear mind cannot control, right? No matter what fairy tale we come up with, there's a wolf, right? You have to deal with the non-linear wolf. I was watching CNN the other day. Fareed Zakaria had a guest who was speaking about life quakes. He was saying essentially we've just had a massive life quake and the aftershocks are still resonating. And these are things we can't stop, right? These are involuntary occurrences. Yet the voluntary aspect, right, is that we have this power to conduct our transitions, right? To control our responses and to move into the right avenue of success for ourselves. Now, the Dalai Lama lately has been saying, we don't need more successful people. What we need is more healers, artisans, lovers, storytellers, craftsmen, people that bring out the love in the world, right? So let's say there's that Krishna principle at work there, right? Moving into the mind, right? So the heart moves up, inhabiting the, call it, higher mind, connecting to the heart. Can't beat that. So just feel this connection of this third eye to the heart. A really interesting phenomenon with chakras in the body is that they alternate between solid and fluid. So 1, 3, 5, and 7 is like earth, it's strong, it's solid, it's willful, it's powerful. Whereas 2, 4, and 6 or fluid. Right? We have the sexual relational chakras, water-based. We have the heart, multicolored fish. We have the third eye, is also kind of multicolored fish world. These two fluid worlds want to come together through this more blueprint template, which is a more solid thing, right? It's like a 3D printer. It's printing out your body, right? It's kind of a negative space phenomenon template. So the throat chakra is big, folks, right? This is really where the action is. We think, oh no, it's in the heart. But isn't the heart already fine? Isn't the heart already divine, right? That's not where the battle is. This is where the battle is, right? And this is sort of like the goal, like the liberation. So we have to kind of move through the battle, move through this battlefield with great ease and grace. Like go with Krishna, right? So what is Krishna actually saying, right? We'll go into more detail here. So essentially saying, withdraw your senses and meditate, ultimately, right? He wants you to merge into the supreme principle so that you can, well, where's the list? Selflessness, mindfulness, compassion, and resonance. This is where we surrender to the bliss, right? This is the heart part, the love, right? The resonance is Kundalini, essentially, right? Well, that's a whole long story. And then authenticity, right? Reaching for the highest principle in yourself that's true to you. Forbearance, this is the strength of the body, the ability, the sort of Gandhian ability to have the stamba, have the graha, have the strength of power to transcend pain and pleasure. And then there's the emotional liberation of gratitude, right? And then the mental liberation of enlightenment. So Krishna is sort of balancing out emotional and mental throughout the chapters, right? The gratitude and the enlightenment are the last two of this batch of 8. It seems very great because there it is, right? Gratitude is a kind of emotional ecstasy sort, right? Where you're just relaxed and you feel this incredible feeling. It's watery, it flows through you. Water is gratitude, right? And then the enlightenment, so right vision, not being attached to the thoughts, right? Being full of light, clearing the densities, clearing the karmas, doing the purification that liberates you from the karmic gravity of So just going back over the 8 here. So we've got first things first, what we do when we meditate, right? We go to 0, right? Delete, get yourself out of the way. Selflessness. Let's breathe into that thought. Just vacate the premises. Nobody here but God, right? That's the idea. We breathe. And then the mindfulness, right? How do you deal with the mindlessness aspect of the mind, the monkey mind, right? Krishna advocates all sorts of things. Meditate on the supreme self, the supreme I am self, the authentic self, the resonance with the supreme, the compassionate heart, the forbearance and the endurance, the gratitude and the enlightenment. Okay, so there's the first 10 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita in kind of a gem-like format. So let's just meditate with that. Quick review. The problem is the mind. Right understanding is the solution. Selflessness, disappearing, relaxing brain, opening the heart, feeling the kundalini, being truly you, being firm and strong, and then having the beautiful gratitude, beautiful enlightenment. So these are the 8 qualities of how we must proceed. Tomorrow we'll get into the 8 dynamics. So quick look ahead. Flow, absorption, intention, dharma, at one-ment, fulfillment, ethical right action, and liberation, merging. Okay, these are more action-based. So today we're meditating on these more being-based qualities. So let's just take a little 4-minute meditation. Just relaxing throat chakra, opening the heart, rising up with Shrima Kundalini. Here we go. Noticing your breath, finding steady posture, relaxing brain, feeling the joy center. So we're breathing. Noticing your body again. If it disappeared on you, notice that you're not your body. This is a very good moment to do that. Notice that you're not your mind. Also a great moment to do that. Who is this pure I am awareness that's so wonderful? Just feel that. So yummy. It's directly connected to this Kundalini flow goddess, right? This warmth that wants to move through the body. Your body knows when you're in alignment. It gets happy when you're in alignment with the divine. It's smarter than us, right? That's why we can ask it any question. It's a kinesiological wonder. It's 140 million years old, essentially. Smartest thing in the galaxy. So we're just thanking our body right now. Breathing into our body. Usually meditation relaxes the brain and the mind. So you're more present. You might be noticing tastes, your tongue, how your eyelids feel. And if there's some kind of pain, it's telling you, move a little bit. Do something different. All right? If you're in pain, do something different. So there's a lot of folks in pain right now who don't have jobs. So Krishna is telling me, I'm inspired to talk about that for a minute. Let's say you're driving Uber, or Krishna's driving Uber, and you're the passenger, but you think, oh, this job is beneath me, or I'm working someplace that I have to, delivering, and that's not my career, that's not me. Hey, don't worry about it. Let's breathe. You're the soul, not the role, right? As Ram Dass would say. My guru would say, you're a member of the Lord's Club. And in the Lord's Club, one day you're the president, next day you're cleaning the toilets. Matter of fact, in the Indian scriptures, Krishna cleans the toilets in the mythologies. He's the king of the universe, and he understands the Lord's Club. So this idea that the external nature of your job is you, that's not true, right? It's a role you're playing. So if you have to do something that you're not sure if that's really you, let's say it's okay. The chariots come in many forms, and if it's a vehicle to help you, hey, my guru would say, yoga is not standing on your head, it's doing what has to be done. So whatever we have to do, this is what must be done, right? Helping someone. I remember I went into the office of the manager of the ashram one day, and there was a friend of mine I'd played in a band with once at an event, and said, Tony, wow, you're the manager now. And he said, well, right now that means finding an envelope for you, which was, well, there it is, right? Such humility, such understanding of it's not the role, it's your soul, right? So for any of you who are out of work and you're trying to understand how to fit in to this crazy culture, I would say, take Krishna's advice. You're the Supreme Self, and the Supreme Self can steer a chariot, right? So no problem there. So we breathe past our ego, right? Release that perfectionist idea that you have to be this particular ego role, right? So anyway, we relax, let the light flow through, feel the satisfaction. It doesn't come from success necessarily, right? It's more of an embodiment phenomenon, meditation. So we breathe into this satisfaction. We respect the body. Respect means to look again at something, right? So usually we disrespect something because we don't know what it is. But then we look again. Body is awesome. Respect. Okay, so we're respecting our body with this wonderful act of compassion called meditation. Perhaps the greatest act of compassion you could bestow upon yourself. Doot doot, says the train. And so we breathe again. So I'm just feeling the pain out there. So let's address some issues. Well, let's see, I have some goodies. So this is for folks who are having relationship issues. Maybe you're trying to get into a relationship. You want a relationship, but you just can't find one. You think you're too old or not attractive or you have some issue. Well, I just love this. Richard Feynman, Nobel Prize winning physicist, nails it here. He says, matter is naturally attracted to other matter, but only up to a point. When two objects get close enough, the energy of attraction for some reason transforms itself into a push. The force of gravity turns into anti-gravity. Oh. So you think, oh, I just love you, I love you, I love you. Person pushes you right away, right? So know that this is how it works. This is the nature, the self-recursive nature of gravity. Also has a counter activity to it, right? It's a repulsion phenomenon. And so for those of you who are concerned about death, well, there's a lot of it. But here's some great stories for you. There's someone who watches this broadcast regularly, and if she wants to reveal herself, that's fine. But I just wanted to mention the quick version of this story because it's so cool. When I did the Deep Space Star Trek meditation, I guess it was last week, I think it was part 2, the ad for that showed up in my friend's husband who has passed in his chat column on Facebook. And there's nothing else in that chat column except something from 3 years ago. And she asked me, well, what do you make of that? I said, well, we did a deep space transmission. You send it telepathic to someone you want to connect to, and then someone in the other world gives a message back. So if you're concerned about death, it seems that those on the other side can communicate back in interesting ways, often through the electronics, because we're not always capable of hearing them. The other quick story around that I wanted to mention was when Barbara Marx Hubbard, a visionary writer who lived in Santa Barbara for years, passed, we had a memorial service, and I did an I am meditation at the very end of that service. And the video that had shown her, that had been on earlier, there was some little glitch in the system where that video bled through the sound system in that moment and said, I am, and it was Barbara's voice, right after the I am meditation. So anyway, these folks who have passed over seem to be still there, and not only still there, they're very present to you. So, yep, your pets and loved ones are waiting for you someday there, so worry not, worry not. And one other sort of healing transmission thought here for this idea of not having a job. This is essentially Krishna's message, you could argue. Where did I get this information? I think I heard it in a lecture once, and it's sort of obvious stuff, but it was well phrased by this person. I don't remember who it was. Success is not what you do, but it's who you are. It's what protects you. Your greatest asset is who you are, not what you have. I love that. The mind is conditioned by habit, so what we need to do is bring in choice and creativity. Okay, so let's drop into our success here, into your beautiful heart, this transmuter of spirit to matter, this incredible alchemical trove of goodies. We're just dropping into the heart, into compassion, into resonance. And we'll just listen to Krishna's flute. Here we go. Well, maybe Krishna wants to play through my flute. One of the dynamics that Krishna speaks of ultimately is absorption. Becoming absorbed. If your kids have ADD, they need absorption. Right? If you have ADHD, you need to meditate and get absorbed. It's like the light is so magnetic, it will absorb you, right? This magnetism of the chest is 50,000 femtoteslas. It's a mighty field. Just basking in this glow. Let it lead you into a flow, this wondrous glow. And then there's a certain dynamism to the mind, right? It's magnetism and then dynamism. Emotional, mental. Magnetism, dynamism. Centripetal, centrifugal, right? These dynamics are pulling on us, creating this paralysis that we experience, right? This impasse. Like I said, if you're just joining us, look at Congress, right? This is an impasse, right? It's all the forces are just all jammed up together, wanting the opposite, right? That's polarity. Luckily, the universe is slightly asymmetrical and the carbon will break. If it was totally paralyzed, I don't think we'd be here, right? If it was just locked down. So luckily, we're not a lockdown. Some part of us is stronger than some other part of us and will prevail, right? We will roll forward with either your magnetics or your dynamics. Are you more of a headstrong person or a heart person, right? Well, what's the mid-zone? The merger is, you could call it here, right? What is that? This mythos, ultimately, this integration, right? We have the dynamism, the magnetism, and the integration. It's like the story, the mythos, the logos mythos, and then it's like eros, right? The feeling zone, love aspect, right? Moves up into the dynamism, back into the integration. So the template is continuously integrating. So if you joined us late, we're talking about the throat chakra as a kind of logos template, 3D printer. It contains all the information. It's the subtle body information that prints out your body. It's like a negative space phenomenon of, in a sense, like a lost wax bronze sculpture phenomenon, right? Where you create this cast, right, around, you actually make a sculpture in wax, and then you cast it, melt the wax, and then fill it with bronze. And so then you take off the cast, and there's the bronze statue. So essentially, well, I think you got the idea. There's a way that God does it. How does she print you out, right? So, blue template, blueprint. So this blue God lives in the blueprint, the Mahapurusha blue person, probably more accurately deep in the black hole of your heart, somewhere in the causal body. But this seems to be its playground, right? This is where we have to fight the war, right? This is the battle of language. This is, yes, you know this, right? So this is really where your sadhana is, or your spiritual practice is to bust through this place, right? Deal with this, figure out the philosophical, figure out the ethical, figure out all the languaging portfolios that essentially give you self-definition. If you're confused here, it's hard to get to here, right? So it's good to fall back in your heart anytime. But let's say when you're trying to make spiritual progress, let's say, I think this is good advice to really understand what's happening here, right? Because what is our problem? Is our story we're telling. It's probably not the best story, perhaps, or a false story, fake news. Isn't that the story, right? Is the fake news story is the problem. So, which news do we listen to? The karma report or the Krishna flow, right? This awareness of self, the pure I am expression of the divine. So let's go park there again. It's good to talk about these things and then come and you could say practice these things, or embody these things, right? Relax brain and feel it in the body, feel it in your heart. It seems to be the goal of all goodness, of all wisdom, right? To not just have you be realized, but have you be activated as well, right? Health is kind of self-realization, kind of realization. But then you have to transmute it, right, for further dispensation, for further activation. So then you can transact with the world and be this incredible being and help everybody. And I'm so glad I'm reading with some folks who are writing. This is so healing. I'm so glad. So just experience this intention right now, right? It's a healing intention. When things come together, the hands look like this, right? In certain countries, if you do this, I'll aim it away from you. That's a curse, right? You don't want to do that to someone. Very bad, right? You're cursing them. It's like fragmented. Everything's come apart. You want it together. We bless. All right? We bless. And while we're working with the hands, this is always a good thing to do to become more conscious of the fact that you're essentially made out of electromagnetic fields. And so we bring our palms together, feel the warmth. That prayer posture is essentially a male-female combination template bringing together, right? Your receptor self, your transmitter self, right? And Buddha's always doing these beautiful mudras. So we're receiving, right? Bringing it in. Essentially the yang part sends it out. So we're yang, yin, positive. Yin is considered negative, but it's not bad negative, it's just negative polarity. Bring them together. And that will actually balance you, believe it or not. This is probably why we do this when we pray, right? Because we're balancing our hemispheres, balancing the two sides of the body, balancing, creating symmetry. Symmetry drives coherency. Coherency drives alignment, good feeling, brings you everything you want, right? Coherency. Come here and see. Coherency. You don't want to be all over there, right? Coming home. Oh. And so back to the templates. So we're feeling the heat, the kundalini connection through the body, through the blood, that beautiful feeling in the fingers. And then pull your palms apart a little bit and just feel the fields. There's a lot going on there, right? If you just can't feel it yet, you'll feel it. It's there. All right? Bring it back together. We bless. Bless the past, bless the future, bless your friends, bless yourself. And then you can do different exercises to feel you could say the stickiness factor of the electromagnetics, right? You can, it's very fluid. So bask in your fluidity here. Second chakra, heart chakra, third eye. These are the fluid, sort of in between the sandwiches of 7, 5, 3, and 1, right? Which are more solid. We have these softer vectors. We just bask in the softer vectors. That's where the love is, right? The will is more, right? And your throat is like, and who knows what your lotus up here is doing, but that's a pretty solid thing too, right? As is your base chakra, these cones that go up and down. So we move through these ganglion of electromagnetics that are essentially gland-driven, right? Your chakras are gland-driven with noble gases at the core. There's inertia there, right? Which is why your chakras You might think you blew a chakra, but you can't. Well, you could rip a chakra, but you can't really blow the thing up, right? It's a noble gas. So if you've watched any of these broadcasts before, I've talked about hydrogen, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. And those are your noble gas attractor factors within your chakras. You are blazing atomic table. Notice that the heavy metals are down in the lower parts, which is more considered the gates of hell in certain spiritual adventure. And this lighter, hydrogenated, expanding, you're made out of space self, that's the right direction, right? We want to move into the hydrogen. So we breathe. And the water element is mostly hydrogen and oxygen in you, right? Very light. Enlightenment is very light. So we're just feeling that. The lightness factor. You know you feel good when you feel light and ecstatic. You know you're in alignment with the divine refinement when you feel light, right? It's just the way it is. If you feel dense and stuck and upset, no. You have driven your truck off the road, Baba. So you got to get back in the calibration, right? Get back in the road is evidently straight and narrow. So we don't want to break the spiritual laws. We want to stay. I'll refrain from rhyming there. So let's just drop back into the heart. A good place to start. All the words that rhyme with art. It's awesome, right? Just feel that. Wow. Now, if your brain is just yakking, just request, hey, not now. Uninvited guests. If these thoughts aren't done with you for whatever reason, whatever is nagging you, eating at you, you have to give these thoughts something, right? It's like a hungry person, right? Feed them. Then God, right? Stomach, then God, right? It's hard to think about God if you're hungry. So this gnawing uncomfortableness that's driving us. Release. It's usually mental in origin, right? Right off the bat, Bhagavad Gita. Mind is the problem. Right understanding is the solution. Right? Bing, bang, bong, or bing, bang. And then bong. Well, selflessness. Third chapter. If bonging gets you there, well, bong on. But ultimately, clear channel, right? So again, what have we accomplished here? We've hopefully in our 45-minute journey thus far, approximately, we're making inroads on the third eye, right? We're moving up to this apartment, the penthouse apartment that you want. Just get past this level, right? It's funny, like, it's sort of like cutting your head off, right? It's a no-brainer. So we just like, that's the football helmet thing, right? We just remove head, and then there you are, so beautifully air-conditioned. How we love it, right? freedom, liberation. So the last, well, call it the last of the 8 qualities is enlightenment in this particular breakdown. And then the last of the 8 qualities for action, or the action dynamisms, is merger, is liberation. So there's a relationship there, right, between enlightenment and liberation, and they do seem to be different in this case, right? So let's look at that. Enlightenment in the sense of right vision, seeing God in everything, not being attached to your thoughts, might not be final liberation for you, right? Maha Samadhi, when you leave your body, that's more liberation when you merge into the great ocean of consciousness. If you can pull it off and still be in your body, then you can join Bhagavan Nityananda in Siddhaloka, right? Because then at that point you are a complete and wondrous Siddha. What is the definition of a Siddha? Basically, it comes from the Sanskrit word Siddh, which means to cook. And I love it that in the Jedi tradition, they're dealing with the Sith, right? Different inflections of these things. So, coming back to the heart. Jedi warrior that you are. A Siddha is a perfected being. Whatever that means for you. Completed the journey. Right? You've merged back into the divine, and whoever you thought you might have been, you left behind. Liberation. Final chapter of the Gita. But today we're focusing more on the being qualities, just because there's a lot of material. Being. So let's think about being. So being is like I am, I feel, maybe I think, I experience. And then the doing, right? The dynamism, that's you desire, you do, right? It's a different energy there. Okay, so the second batch, what Krishna says you have to do, well, let's not worry about it right now. But that is the next batch, right? So it means that being is maybe enough, but maybe not, right? Self-realization is good, but self-activation is more complete. So let's just bring those two together, sort of the masculine and the female aspect of things. The beingness is more feminine, more female. The action tends to be more yang. It's associated with more male. So again, we bring being and doing together, male, female energies together, the mind and the heart, the logos and the mythos, the dynamism and the magnetism all comes together. What I love about this prayer posture meditation is it literally stops your mind. But try it, right? You bring these together and you just go. And just feel your palms and breathe. And you can suspend your thoughts. It's like they swirl around. They don't know quite where to land. They're talking about because you're going, you're creating a non-linear field of no mind, right? Literally, you're just pushing nothingness out into somethingness there. But that action is very profound because it's a 0-point plaza expression, right? You are literally vortexing around a 0 point. They're pulling forth infinite energy. Food couldn't possibly just drive your body, right? We're aligned with much more subtle energy fields driving us. And so we just notice these, they're pouring out of this vacuum center of the heart. Essentially, you are a 0-point extractor of love. And we're just pulling God's love right out of the chest, right out of this 0-point place. And if you're not doing that, you're probably sulking and getting all funky with yourself, and that's pretty normal. We all do this, right? But then you can come back to, right? It's like those magicians, right? They just keep pulling those handkerchiefs out of their mouth. Just keep pulling God's love out of your chest. All right, you're the ultimate magician. Wow, time is really going slow today. Usually with this much information, I look at the clock, it's like an hour and 15 minutes have gone by. It's like, wow, we're moving at light speed here today. So we're just going to bask in the glow of the speed of light thoughts. Bask in the glow of your intuitive feelings. When you put love into something, it glows, right? Into your friends, into your lover, into yourself. You just create the glow factor. Glow back. So here we go, we just want to glow. Glow, glow, glow. For those of you who are arcing into desire, like you want stuff, and like you're getting bored, we're meditating, I need something, I have to go do this, or I need this. Okay, so for anyone restless, it's like, move into your mind for a minute, and just notice that when you've been meditating, it's like you just cleaned your car, or something. Like your mind is all of a sudden much more like Lakshmi Vahanam, right? This vehicle of Lakshmi, this transporter to an incredible dimension. That's it. Just keep pulling God out of your chest. I'm reading the chat line here. Thank you, Jen. Pull that mind, pull that heart energy right up into the mind. So you've got heart mind. Then your thoughts won't be boring, negative, kind of selfish, whatever, right? Bring that loving, colorful, joyous plume into your bloom, and you'll just float out of the room, right? You're just gonna go up, like the song Happy says, right? Like a room without a roof. So we breathe into this ecstasy that goes up. Ecstasy travels up into the celestial. We send the toxins down, right, into the earth. The first wave of the earth is negative. It will pull your garbage into it. All right, so just send the negative down and let this lightweight, fluffy enlightenment, very light feeling lift you. And you know you're doing well when you feel that lightness. You know you've resolved some of the density of the karmas, density of whatever doesn't feel good, right? Bad feelings are don't have pretty colors. So we just fluff up into this plume of rainbow spectrosity of the God velocity, right? Just beauteous entrainment of color. And anyone coming near you will feel it, right? They'll just be, whoa, your colors are just so great, right? We just wash people down with your beautiful colors. You don't have to say a word, right? So this heart, moving up into this third eye, moving up to the fountain of grace, the top of the head. As the heart is the mind, and the mind is the heart. But there are differences, right? There's heart-mind, and there's stupid thoughts. And when we're in pain, we're usually having stupid thoughts, right? So have better thoughts. Supreme I Am emblazoned it. You want to abide inside so the mind will subside, right? Relaxing brain. Open into heart-mind. Right? It's a better find. Well, this clock is not telling me the truth. But this one is. So, namaste everyone. It's a beautiful journey. This is Sudama signing off. Thank you for sharing my journey today. It feels really good. I feel a lot of love, a lot of Kundalini moving through me. And hopefully you got a lot of blessings. Tomorrow we'll be doing the Bagavad Gita part 2. And there'll be some more magic carpet ride. Namaste everyone.